Good afternoon, everybody. Calm Biker here. Just hoping I can get a vlog done before I get coated in crud off these roads. I've just wiped the camera once. It was absolutely clarted up, looked like I've been doing motocross or something. So I'll give you a bit of good news and a bit of bad news. I've got a bit of good news. I've finally got a date through for my IAM test. Quite looking forward to that. I'm not going to tell you where it is. I'm not going to tell you when it is. I'm going to show you where it is probably by the end of this video, but that's irrelevant. I'm not going to tell you when it is just because of the added kind of pressure of people knowing when it is. So far there are only two people who know when it is. One is Mrs. Calm and the other is my boss, because he's allowing me to take a couple of hours off to do the test as long as I make it up, rather than having to book a holiday. Thanks very much, Dave. But yeah, I've got a date through, so I'm going to be doing that in the not too distant future, assuming it's not snowing or something horrible. So I'm on my way now to find out where it starts, because it's not going to be my local examiner doing it, because he's on holiday, on a cruise somewhere very nice, for about 6 weeks, so that'll be nice for him. But it means that the practice test route I did won't be the test route I'm doing for the test. But still, the point of doing advanced riding is that you should be able to do it anywhere, not just on roads you already know. You wouldn't be very advanced if you had to be on roads you already knew, would you? So I'm going to go and find it. Like motovlogger rideouts, for some reason, my test is starting at McDonald's. I don't know why. Do McDonald's sponsor the police as well as motovlogger rideouts? I don't know. Tell you what, they make horrible coffee. But because of the lovely Northern Vlogger, a lot of the times it's free, so I can't grumble. So that's me good news. When I talk about pressure, the extra pressure of people knowing, to be honest, there's not really any pressure on it as a test, because you know, when you do your bike test, when you're learning to ride, there's some pressure there, because at the end of it, if you fail, you're not getting a license, and you know, you're stuck on a 125 with L plates. If you're going to fail your advanced test, well, it doesn't really change your life at all. It just means you failed your advanced test, so you'll be disappointed, I'm sure. But they don't take your license away, so who cares? So that's my good news. My bad news, if you watch my videos, you'll know that I did that little exploring video the other day, mainly to test the puncture repair on the Kawasaki's rear tyre, because it was a heck of a puncture, but it seems to be holding up. But that puncture had the bike off the road for a week or so wanted to test it out, wanted to make sure everything was fine, and it was. And I also talked in that video about how I bought a load of new parts. So I had some mirror extenders for the Kawasaki, some new levers for the Kawasaki in gold to go with the pinstriping. I've got new levers for this one as well, some nice shiny blue ones to go with the shiny blue stripe on the side of the fairing. Oh, it's mainly brown today because of the dirt. And then some other bits to protect the radiator and the fan and what have you. I thought, because of the IM test coming up, I'm not going to do anything on this bike. You know, I might be a bit too ham-fisted, mess something up and have to do the test on the other one, and that one wouldn't be as good for doing the test on. So I thought, well, I've got a spare half hour. My mate Tosh23 tells me that changing the levers is a 10-minute job, dead easy, not a problem. So I thought, I've got half an hour, I'm not eating this lunchtime, I'm going to change the levers on the Kawasaki. So I took them off, or I decided I was going to take them off and replace them. I didn't take them off, as I'll explain. But I'll start with the brake lever, because that's the easiest one. So I got my socket out, put it onto the nut underneath the brake lever. On the lever, if you don't know, there's like a bolt, but it's only got a thread right at the end, and then the rest is a pin, and that's what your lever actually kind of squeezes on. or twists around, pivots around. It's called a pivot pin, cunningly. And that goes in, you actually screw that in on the Kawasaki without the nut. And when you screw it in, you use 1 Newton meter of force, which is kind of, you don't even need a screwdriver, you can do that with your fingers pretty much. And then the nut goes on the end of it, and that's just to stop it vibrating out. And that goes on with 5 Newton meters, which is finger pressure, it's nothing at all. Unfortunately, whoever had the lever out last didn't read that particular bit of the book. So, for one thing, they'd cross-threaded the bolt on, and then secondly, they've obviously swung on it like a gorilla, because the thing was so tight it was impossible to get off. So I got my socket on it and I was trying to loosen it, and it just wasn't having it, so I had to start kind of bouncing the socket and tapping it to try and just free up the nut, and it wasn't having that either. And eventually I gave it a slightly harder tap, nothing mental, you know, not a hammer or anything like that, just a tap with the palm of my hand, and it snapped. So the bolt has obviously been tightened to the point where it's been weakened, and the end of the bolt sheared off with the nut around it. So I've got a nut with a bit of bolt in and a bolt still in the bike. Luckily I could unscrew the bolt. It hasn't damaged it to the point where it wouldn't come out of the brake, so I could take it out and get the lever out. I'm not putting it in again because it is slightly damaged and I don't want to wreck the threads on the bolt, on the housing, whatever it's called. And I've not got a nut to put on the end of it anymore anyway, and it's now too short to put a nut on. So I don't think it's safe to try and ride it like that. So the bike's off the road again, and I've gone onto a Kawasaki spares website. I was having a look around a few. The cheapest one I found, the bolt is about £5, and the nut is a couple of quid. Can you believe it? And then £3 for delivery. So it's ended up costing me just under £10 to put a new nut and bolt on my levers, or to replace my levers. How frustrating is that? To put that into perspective, the levers are nice ones from China that cost 16 quid. So yeah, my levers have gone from £16 to £25 just because of that. Really, really irritating. But you know, such is life. These things happen. Que sera, sera, and all that rubbish. So hopefully I'll get it back on the road again soon, and I can ride that one a bit more, because I don't want to ride this one too much before my test, because my front tyre is approaching needing replacement, and I don't want to be using an incredibly worn tyre for my test, because the policeman will look at it and go, nope. But I also don't want to be swapping the tyre just before my test and then having to do the test on a tyre that's not scrubbed in. So you know, hopefully I want the other one back on the road so I can keep riding. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. Ride safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon. There's my nut, my bolt, and there's my nut with the end of the bolt completely sheared off. You can actually see, I mean you won't be able to pick it up on camera, but you can actually see that there's some real damage to the threads. So I'm guessing, looking at the shape of that they've cross-threaded it and then really monkeyed on it. Don't monkey your nuts.